Why, hello there, eager listeners, and welcome once again to another broadcast of the one and only Spirit Radio. We are so happy you have tuned in once more. Yes, it is I, once again your gracious host, and I have a familiar face once more with us. We missed you during our last broadcast.
You know what they say. Friends, though absent, are still present. And there's no rest for the wicked.
Oh, I know, my dear, I know. And believe me, it broke my heart to continue without you. But this is a show that can't and shouldn't be stopped. We have schedules to keep and quotas to meet. And also our dear audience, of course. Our eager listeners, our voices in the dark needed to be heard. Now, what kind of a host would I be if I didn't sit and listen to every single one of them? Now, eager listeners, I'm sure you know the routine by now. Just reach out and call us. We are on the air, we the voices in the dark, calling to you to join in and be a part of this broadcast. The Spirit Radio is a place to be heard, after all.
We have our first caller of the night waiting on the line.
Wonderful news, excellent news. Hello, dear caller, you're on the air with the Spirit Radio. Make the listeners tremble with your tale. The microphone is yours.
I've heard a lot of stories that have come onto this channel that are about the monsters in the darkness or ghosts and ghouls coming out to scare the bejesus out of everyone. But I want to make clear that this story is about something that, from what I can tell, was a human. A human did one of the most horrible things I'd ever seen. I lived on a really nice suburban street. It was pretty boring, pretty average. A lot of my friends lived over on the other side of town, and I got pretty used to taking the bus or riding my bike in order to be able to meet up with them. It was your typical kind of boring white picket fence. I'll freely admit my dad was into retail, and he was a bit of a snob. He managed to get us a good bargain on this house, and I enjoyed living that life. One night I'd gone with my friends to visit a house party of some sort. It was a friend of a friend whose name I can't even remember at this point. But we looked at it as, hey, this is an excuse for a free drink, meet some boys, meet some women, and just, have one of those life's for living kind of moments. Anyway, I'm on the bus, and I had managed to get back home safe and sound. I was the only one on the bus at that point. It was still a pretty okay time. I hadn't come back stupidly late, mostly because the party had descended into being pretty damn boring pretty damn quickly. I get off the bus, and there's already a bit of a shock there to us. Well, to me. Because there's some thick smoke in the air, and I can hear people muttering and grumbling to each other. Some sort of a commotion. So instead of going straight towards my house, I cut a few streets over, falling where I could see the smoke in the sky. It was dark, so you couldn't see it, but because it was kind of cold, you could make out the shape of it, like this big moving mass in the air. I ducked down to have a look, and I see that one of the houses is on fire. It had just started. It wasn't all burning, blazing flames reaching up as high as the sky like you see in the movies. No. This was just started fire. From what we found out later in newspaper clippings and stuff, the fire had only been going for a few minutes at that time. Maybe even half an hour at most. Anyway, at this point, I'm watching all of this excitedly. I called my parents to let them know where I am, and I say, oh, I'm over the next street. Well, my mother was absolutely furious. She said, you want to get yourself back here. I was complaining and whining, but Mom, I've really got to get back. I really want to watch this. I guess, looking back on it, it was a pretty dickish thing to say, There's been a fire, maybe someone's been hurt, and I'm stood here trying to get a better view. It's the way of the world, I guess, now. Something horrible happens, out come the camera phones. Well, my mom insists. She says she wants me to come back home. I protest, but I know she's not going to relent. So I start to jog back to where the street cuts back onto mine. I keep looking back to it, and by this point people are already stood outside calling. Off in the distance I can hear the faint sound of sirens, but it had been such a cold and still night the sound was carrying over. It was easier for me, to hear it. Finally, resigning myself to one more look at the fire as it was building, I turned and lowered my head and started to walk back to my street. As I get around the corner, I see it. Stood at the corner, further down from where my house is by a good 3 or 4 yard lengths, was a figure. A tall, gangly-looking figure swathed in bandages, and with what looked like tendrils dripping out of it. It stumbled, and from the build and the shape of it, I could figure out that it looked like a man. It didn't move like a woman. It lurched, like it was struggling with all the things that were sticking into it. It screamed. It was this horrible, frustrating scream. It was full of rage. And as he stumbled, I look, and its bandages are covered in soot and scorch marks. 2 wide, piercing blue eyes are glaring back at me. And that's when the penny dropped. As he screamed, he turned, and I'd been so paralyzed in fear I didn't know that he was now looking straight at me. I see this sick leer cross his lips. He's smirking. I see him raise a foot and slam it to the floor, and I realize he's hunkered down and he's making a sprint for me. Right for me. I panic and I run back to where the fire is. I scream as I'm grabbing people. I saw something, pleading with people. They think it might be the arsonist, so they have a quick walk around. There were picket fences so high up in between houses for security that you couldn't just climb over the fences or climb over people's gardens to be able to get there. By the time we were there, whoever it was gone. Long gone. It started to rain soon after that, and when we told the police officers that I might have seen the arsonist, they brought out the police dogs, but there wasn't enough evidence, and from what I described, they thought that maybe I'd been hallucinating. You see, there were 2 doctors that were in there. They had various pharmaceutical chemicals in their house. They were burned so badly that most of the house was gutted. The chemicals had evaporated and made things burn worse. They might as well have just taken napalm and poured it all over the walls. They were only able to identify the remains just because of the fact that some small trace of them they were able to find in the dust several years later was enough to genetically identify them. They were sweet people, a little bit quirky, but apparently they were really well-educated doctors. I remember picking up the news clippings because it had happened on my doorstep, and because for the longest time I was so terrified that I would see whoever that man was again. Would he try and burn me down? Was he after me? Or is he still out there, looking to find something else to burn down, to make him smile like he did that night?
Yes. Such a strange thing to meet in the darkest of nights. Thank you indeed, caller, for sharing your tale. My goodness, it even startled me somewhat. My word, that in itself is no small feat. That is quite an honour, but let's take that momentum and keep it driving us deeper into the darkness towards the next voice looming out from the crowd.
Okay. Alright. Haha. Joke's over, okay?
Why, whatever do you mean, our dear caller?
Look. Just... Haha, okay, very funny. Now just knock it off, alright? I can get in trouble for the kind of crap you guys are pulling. You don't want me to call and harass you anymore? Fine, alright. But back off, okay?
I'm not sure I follow you. I'm just a voice at a microphone, a grinning host and nothing more. But you make it sound like I've done something. How on earth could I do something?
Look, I'm not just pointing a finger at you here, okay? I don't know if it was one of your creepy little lackey listeners that did it, or you that did it, or that bimbo you call a producer.
Hey!
But showing up at my sister's house was way out of line. I was babysitting her kids, alright? They were freaking out when they saw someone stood at the door waving at them through the glass. Halloween's over. The hell am I supposed to tell them? I get it. You guys are all for the spook factor, but this crosses the line. You get your little fans to drop it. You don't want me to call? I won't call. But this is over. Got it?
That really is too bad. And just as I felt we were building up a real repartee too. But if those out there don't want their voices to be heard, then of course I cannot force you to dial. I can only encourage you to take this chance as your own and to share with us the stories that keep you up at night. You have been kept up by them after all. They rattle around in your skull in the restless hours when slumber eludes you. We'll bind that story with your words. purge it from you by speaking it aloud, and let it linger in someone else's mind.
On the subject of lingering, there's a call on the next line with something on their mind.
Ah, another moth drawn to the light, or just drawn to our voices in the dark. Hello there, caller, please. The microphone is all yours, and we are all sat on the edge of our seats in eager anticipation. Please, tell us about your own extraordinary experiences.
So, first of all, I give a big shout out to the radio show. I've been listening once or twice in the late night drives back to work when I've managed to get home early. Kudos for that. Kinda nice to hear someone while the people get a chance to call in and share their spooky experiences. Talking about weird stuff. I really like it for some reason. I got a pretty sick story for you now and everything, so I'm just gonna get right into it if that's cool with you guys. I'm walking down the street, same old day as every other day, you know? I get on the bus, my car at the time was at the shop, and I'm heading towards my job, and there's this crazy old lady. Now, I have seen this lady probably a dozen times or so in the middle of the city streets. No one has any idea who she is. She always wore like this frock covered in like sunflowers or something that looked like she had drawn them on herself. And she had a hat that looked like she had pulled it out of a trash can or something like that. You know, it was one of those massively decorative ones, like a big freaking sunflowers, big sun hat and everything. But she was wearing it like it was an everyday hat in the winter and summer, whenever, along with those really ugly hobnail boots that were like busted up and broken. I think they were older than my grandpa. Anyway, she is always carrying a bunch of plastic bags, and we always call her the bag lady. We never go anywhere near her. She walked up to random people in the streets and she would just look at them and she'd ask them to buy bag, buy bag, buy bag. She always said it in the same old way. It was like she was stuck on a broken record or something. She was a local in this town, pretty much always there first thing in the morning, the last thing you see at night. This one day, there's nobody else in the street except for yours truly, and she makes a beeline right for me. She comes straight up to me and she says, "Buy bag." I said, "No thank you." "Buy bag, buy bag, buy bag." She keeps asking me and asking me. Then it gets really sinister. I'm walking along, and while I'm walking, she's practically running after me. She's saying, "Buy bag, buy bag, buy bag." I mean, during this whole situation, I tried ducking into buildings, and she's waiting outside for me. I'm about to call the cops at one point, and as soon as I go for my phone, she'll wander off. I think, okay, I'm going to give this 5 or 10 minutes because I'm still on my way to work, and I don't want Bag Lady following me to my work to harass me. And as soon as I come out of the building I was hiding in, she comes right around the corner. It was like she was waiting for me, because she lunges around the corner and says, "Buy bag, buy bag, buy bag." And finally at that point I say, alright, alright. I'll buy a damn bag." Her face lit up like it was Christmas, and it would have been cute, but her face is so blistered and her teeth so broken and rotten. It reminded me how damn creepy she was. So I ask her how much a bag is, and she says, "It's only $1. And I'm like, "Fine, you know what? Okay, $1. So she can clear off. Bargain." So I give her $1, and she suddenly shoves one of these bags in my hand. Her hands, I thought she had black gloves on. No, her hands were black like they were rotten, like some sort of gangrene, like a damn corpse. And I realize it's not leather gloves she's got on. That's her skin. She shoves the bag into my hands. God, the touch of her skin on mine so grosses me out to this day. All worn and tough, but slimy underneath the skin, like a boil ready to burst. Up close, despite all the marks and wear and tear to her, I could see she was only in her 40s. A bad 40s. Like she had just mistreated herself so bad all her life. I guess that's why I just thought the smell I was picking up was her and did my best to mask my gagging. She turns around and says, "I'm giving you a good one." It was the first time other than the earlier "it's a dollar" line that I've heard her say anything other than her standard phrases. So she turns and walks right off. Don't ask me why I didn't just chuck the bag. I guess I thought if I chucked this bag away, she was gonna find it and she was gonna come and rip my head off. So I finally go straight to work and I take this bag with me. I thunk it down my desk and one of the people at my work says, "What the hell is that smell?" I explained what had happened and he asked me, "Well, did you open it?" In all that time, I had not even bothered to do just that. So on my desk, that's exactly what I did. I opened it, and I screamed. My coworker bolted to the bathroom, but didn't quite make it. The new intern passing fell back on her ass, screeching like a banshee, and the smell and the shock rippled through the office like a stone in a pond. Inside, staring right back at me, was a bloated human head. We called the cops, or my boss did anyway, and they took it away and took a statement from me. I was called in for questioning, and they picked up the old lady. In her bags were even more body parts. A foot, a hand. Some of them, so I heard, weren't from the same body. 2 left feet, a male hand, a woman's hand. The case is still unsolved, and bag lady passed away in custody not a month after being picked up. So these answers were probably never going to get answered at all. Despite how messed up it all was, one thing kept nagging in my mind. What would have happened if I checked the bag before I bought it? Would I be one of the people in her little bags?
My goodness. Truly a case of buyer beware. I only hope that this experience hasn't left your own head rattling with nightmares and a fear of the shadows. It's never the shadows you have to fear after all. It's those within them, waiting for just the right moment. Oops. Sorry about that.
Really now? Is that any way fitting of a host?
That I am. Your host, of course. The grand host of Here and Now, the Spirit Radio. And rather than jump from your seat at my attempts at fear, why not instead listen to our next caller? Do we have someone on the line, my dear producer?
Indeed we do. Ready and waiting.
Absolutely wonderful. I have said that before. We here at the Spirit Radio, we want to give you a voice. We don't mock or judge your stories of the dark. Far from it. We love to hear them. Hello, caller. Speak up, loud and proud, for the microphone is all yours.
You know, every night you always talk about those people who are working on the night shift. I gotta say, a lot of the times they are too damn busy to be able to hear you. It's very rare for anyone to be quiet enough to be able to listen to the radio. Usually while it's listened to, it's something a little more upbeat. Sorry, I'm not calling to throw shade on you. I'm not like that other guy. I was calling because you remind me of a night story, one that I was part of. I did see it with my own 2 eyes, after all. Like I don't know a lot about spooks and ghosts and ghoulies and all those things that this channel goes on about. But one night, we had the boss come down. I used to work in a hospital, and I worked as a late-night by-porter. Nothing too exciting, just moving bodies from the morgue, moving equipment, helping patients, helping nurses out if needed. Sometimes, if there are late night tests, I have to go and run those, and sort of food and supplies, and uh, the typical porter type stuff that you would get. Anyway, why'd the boss come down? He says we are going to have a new starter in a few weeks. I said, all right, what's going on? He said, you're going to keep an eye on this kid. Okay, young offender, community service kind of thing. All right. It's a program they're trying to push. Kids, not a big criminal, breaking and entering, trespassing, nothing too serious, you know? So they're letting him try a bit of community work, because they want to get his sentence down a bit. You always hear about it, like prisons are overcrowded and everything, and some bright spark decided, hey, if we make this kid do this community service, then we're going to get out of this, no problem. Gets him to go home, gets his life back on track, one less person in the prison system, right? Okay, fine, whatever. It's not my business. I'm just the one who's around keeping an eye on this little shit punk to make sure he doesn't steal anything. A few weeks go by, and the big night comes. I gotta say, he wasn't anything special to really look at. His hair was cropped really short, and he kept running his fingers through it. I'm guessing he had it probably cut short for the work. You kind of do that when you had your hair cut short for the first time. I know I did. Always was feeling the side of my head and everything, thinking, where's my hair gone? He had this really kind of wispy facial hair, too. Anyway, he introduced himself. He's been in his prison clothes. I'm not going to name his name, because I don't know where he is and what he's doing, and I don't want to get that kid into trouble. Anyway, he goes in. His clothes are all laid out for him in the locker room while I'm talking through things. Trying to be a nice guy, but Look, I'm not going to try and pull punches here. If you were a criminal back then, in my eyes, you were a criminal. You've done something wrong. You've clearly decided you wanted to follow your own damn rules, and as a result, you had to pay for that. I worked hard. I put food on the table for my family. I've had a third daughter at that point. Kid's listening, and he's nodding, and he asks, so when are we going to be starting stuff? And then I said, well, we are going to have to go down to the morgue. He kind of bristled at that, and I'm like, just relax, okay? Look. It's just a bunch of dead bodies. If it makes you feel any better, you can think that they're sleeping. They usually have blankets on them. Yeah, they will usually make a few creepy noises or what have you, but that's about it. In that kind of environment, you really don't know what to make of any of those pranks that you usually hear about. Sure, it's kind of funny if you have a noob here working on the day shift. But when it comes to people like dead bodies and everything, you get a morbid sense of humor, and there's that line you just do not cross. Kids probably thinking, these guys gonna pull a prank on me. That's gonna make me jump a mile. And we're like, no, we're not. Honestly, we're not. If you do, we even showed him. Look, if you do anything like that, there's the place where you can report us. Fill out the paperwork and everything, no problem. But there are many of these damn security cameras around, They will see if you do anything. So just relax, kid. In hindsight, maybe that's not the biggest thing he was worried about. Anyway, I get started. He helps me wheel a few gurneys. Mostly I'm walking around just being bored. I mean, this kid's gonna do most of the work, you figure, you know? Well, what's the old saying? Something about having an animal that does something and then doing it yourself? I don't know. I forget it. Anyway, point is, he's there, doing his work. I'm just following along with him. I notice he's got a tattoo around his neck at one point. I guess he felt a little bit irritated with his high collar, and I see him unfasten it and untuck his neck a bit, and see he's got this dark tattoo there. I ask him, what's that all about? He said, it's my crucifix. So how the hell did you get that? The kid wasn't 18, you know? As far as I knew, anyway. I mean, young offenders and everything. But he said, I got it done while I was in prison. Helps me sleep better at night. I'm like, whoa, hell, freaking weirdo alarm bells ringing right here. Sleeps better at night because he's got a crucifix. That is some serious religion. But anyway, we're walking down the corridor, and we get to one of these intensive care wards. Just been walking down. He freezes and points down this long corridor, and it's dark, you know? The nurse's station got all the lights lit up. The corridor's long and dark. The wards themselves, a few beds that got on them, but they will pull all the curtains around so they won't disturb anyone else. And at the far end of this corridor is this dark, shadowy figure. Kind of looked like a cloud, or like someone was wearing a dressing gown, or it just it didn't look right. It didn't have the right kind of silhouette when you think person. First thing through my mind is, what the fuck? And this kid, he's already taken a step back, and he's dropped the supplies we had with him. And I looked at him, and then back, and this thing was gone. Like, what the hell this thing was? It just vanished into thin air. Okay, right? That put me. I definitely cramped up a bit on the pocket meter. And I had to wander down, get one of the nurses to come with me. One of the beds, 5th bed in the ward, with 3 beds on either side. Bed number 5, slow drone coming from his equipment down near the nurse's station. Old guy, passed away. Fairly common. I mean, it's a hospital. I mean, you can go to the hospital and people pass away all the damn time. This just didn't sit right with me. I asked the kid if he had seen it, and he just looks at me, and so help me, I can see it all over his face. Yeah, he saw it. Oh boy, did he see it. What does he say? And it's not a damn thing. Next night comes, pretty routine, but I see this kid sweating up a storm, and his eyes look so sunk in, and he looks scared, man. And he was looking scared as time went on. Heck, once or twice, I was even getting scared. Over the next 3 weeks or so, we kept seeing something. Some things, even. Once or twice, there would be a point when I would go down a corridor and I'd see something like a shadowy figure, And then I would hear that yelp, and I'd look, and I'd look, and I'd look. There was something he was looking at. I thought there was something in the water, but... And you think, why the heck wouldn't you just quit then and there? Why wouldn't you ask questions? I'm not smart enough for that kind of stuff, all right? I'm not going to start running around thinking I'm seeing spooks, but, there's nothing on cameras. There's only so much you can do at hospitals. You still have to do your damn job. One night, though, before the shift starts, I asked the kid, he's got no choice. He has to keep coming here. And I say to the kid, hey, look, right? What the hell is that thing running around? Like, what the heck is going on? Is that something? Because, you keep clawing at it any time you see one of those damn things. Finally, he says, look, can we go sit in the van or something? I don't want anyone to hear it, all right? There's this junky old van we used to have. It was an old transit that we used to use for picking up deliveries or get some food if anything was necessary. Driving to supermarkets, junk like that. Kid sits down and he says, probably one of the weirdest tales I had ever heard. He's turning around and biting it into this sandwich that I gave him, and he says, ghosts like me. Okay, drop the freaking bombshell right there. What the hell do you mean ghosts like you? And he tells me, my grandma, she used to say that ghosts like me. She was from some old country, I don't know, passed away years ago. I think I must have been just a baby or something like that, but I can sort of remember her. And she used to say ghosts like me. We weren't any kind of big, really just family. We just didn't have supernatural experiences in our past. We don't have anything like Ouija boards or any of that crap. She just told me. I don't know if she cursed me or if she wished it on me or if she was just some sort of psychic that you see. But true enough, I used to see stuff. Once in a while, I used to see something. And when I'm around, other people can see it too. I'm like a magnet to them. You probably walk up and down these halls and everything that I see, you've gone right past it. You've gone right through it. How many people have died and we have been there? We've seen it. Now then, I actually had to put it together. I've put together the first time where the old man had died and we stood right there watching him, but I really hadn't put it together till he kind of pointed it out. And yeah, sure, where there was some spooks out, someone had passed away. Someone old, someone young, accident victim, naturally, of old age, I don't know. I'm not saying he was killing them or anything like that. It's just happened to be that we'd show up, and if someone was there and we saw them that was there, that was it. Jeez. I'm talking about this stuff like it's simple mathematics, but I don't believe any of it. I said to the kid, okay, then what the hell are we supposed to do? And he says, look, I got one more week of this. Right, and he did. It'd be one more week, and that would be it. I get the call on one of my days off. When you're stuck on the night shift, you're pretty much bored and you are stuck home alone anyway. It's not really what you call a day off, because you were sitting there kind of hoping that the phone rings, because what do you do on the nighttime? You can't go to the nightclub. I got little kids. I got daughters. I had to take care of my wife. Anyway, looking back on the old CCTV, I mean, this was a while ago now, pixely as hell. The kids with the other members of staff, and apparently he was in one of the corridors, and he started to freak out. He starts to freak out, and he's clawing at himself, and he's scared, and he's really scared. I can see it on his face. The kid freaks out, and he makes a run for one of the windows, and he manages to get through. He's only 5 stories up. Trust me, that's enough when you're going head first. I never saw where he was. People thought that maybe he might have taken something and freaked out. People thought he might have cracked with all the work, but people have been doing that for years. You don't just crack like this kid did. Craziest thing is that at least 3 people have passed away in that ward, all near the same time. Was something hunting him? Was something coming after him? I had this one theory, and it used to scare the shit out of me. What if whatever it was following the kid and started killing all these people? What if the kid surrounded himself with bad people because he wanted them to die? He thought they deserved to die. But when he was stuck with all these innocent people, they didn't deserve to die. And so he thought, hey, if it's chasing me, I'll get out of here. I don't like that theory, to be honest. In case you're wondering, I'm still doing my job, but I have no more kids that come. Anyway, that's my story. That's not the best told, but hey, what do you want? I just hope that whatever was out there, if you are out there, whatever the heck you were, I hope you left that kid alone wherever he went, when he went. I hope you let him move on. He deserves that. That's all I gotta say.
Just because you cannot see something doesn't mean it's not there. A fact that young man has learned all too well. A thank you for sharing your story, caller. You may not see all the time, but I can assure you from my own personal experiences, and through the experiences all of you have shared, that they are there. They lurk, and they wait. Wait for the right moment to be known, just as all of you wait for the right moments to be heard.
Unfortunately, those callers waiting for the right moment tonight are out of luck, and we are out of time.
Ah, yes, of course. Our prime-time peak is coming to an end for now, but rest assured, we will be back very soon with a menagerie of the macabre to share with you all. Just remember, all of you listening with attentive ears, that nighttime is our time. And as your grateful host disappears once more into the darkness, it is up to you to find the words to voice your own tales of terror, because the next horrors told may very well be your own.